This photograph seemed harmless at first, two teenage girls sitting side by side on a plantation veranda in 1853. One white, one black, dressed elegantly, smiling as if they were friends. But beneath the black girl's dress, historians discovered something shocking: a gold shackle disguised as jewelry fastening her ankle. What appeared to be innocent companionship was actually a cruel performance of friendship, forced under the watchful eyes of their enslavers. This single photograph reveals how slavery could hide in plain sight, a story of control, deception, and the hidden suffering behind a seemingly sweet smile. Dr. Natalie Chen had spent decades immersed in history, curating, preserving, and analyzing thousands of photographs at the National Museum of American History. She thought she had seen it all: portraits of families, battlefield scenes, moments frozen in time. But nothing had prepared her for what came next. It was part of the Montgomery Collection, a set of photographs from antebellum Louisiana that had long been celebrated for its seemingly rare depictions of interracial friendships. At first glance, this particular image appeared ordinary, almost charming. Two teenage girls sat side by side on an ornate plantation veranda. On the left, Caroline Montgomery, a 14-year-old white girl, her blonde hair carefully styled and her dress a masterpiece of Victorian elegance. To her right, Harriet, a black girl of about 15, dressed in a finer outfit than most enslaved people ever wore, sitting close enough to seem equal. A heartwarming moment, or so the surface suggested. Natalie adjusted the high-resolution scanner, zooming in to check the image's details, following the habits that had served her for years. And that's when she noticed it: a small metallic glint beneath Harriet's dress. Initially subtle, almost decorative, the glint revealed itself as something far more sinister: a gold shackle carefully disguised to resemble jewelry. Her heart sank. The photograph, once celebrated as evidence of a rare friendship, was in fact documenting something horrifying: forced companionship. Harriet was compelled to act as Caroline's friend, to perform affection and loyalty, all while physically restrained. The chains weren't just instruments of control. They were a cruel performance, a symbol of ownership dressed as benevolence. Natalie felt the weight of centuries pressing through that single image. For over 170 years, the true story of Harriet's life had been hidden in plain sight. Her resilience, her suffering, her survival erased by the polished narratives of plantation families. But now, with this photograph, the hidden truth could finally emerge. This was more than a portrait. It was a testament to human endurance under unimaginable circumstances. As she carefully documented the detail, Natalie knew this discovery would change how historians understood slavery, representation, and memory. Behind the smiles and the elegance lay a story that demanded to be told. A story of hidden chains, forced friendship, and survival that had waited 170 years for its voice. As Natalie adjusted the high-resolution scanner, her eyes moved meticulously across the photograph, trained to catch even the smallest detail. At first, it seemed like any other image from the Montgomery Collection. Two girls sitting side by side on a plantation veranda in 1853. Caroline Montgomery, with her carefully styled blonde ringlets and pristine Victorian dress, looked every bit the picture of Southern elegance. Beside her, Harriet, a black girl dressed in fine attire, seemed to match her companion's composure, almost smiling at the camera. The image had been celebrated in prior publications as a rare, almost heartwarming example of friendship crossing racial boundaries. But then Natalie noticed something that made her pause. Beneath the hem of Harriet's dress, a faint metallic gleam caught the light. At first, she thought it might be a decorative buckle or a small piece of jewelry, but her instincts told her to look closer. Adjusting the contrast and sharpening the image, the object resolved into something unmistakable: a gold filigree shackle, intricately designed to appear ornamental, but functioning as a restraint. A chill ran down her spine. The friendship portrayed in the photograph was no friendship at all. It was a performance dictated by ownership. Harriet had been forced into the role of companion, a position carefully curated by the Montgomery family to provide Caroline with a constant presence. A child trained to behave as a friend while remaining physically and emotionally confined. Every smile, every pose, every interaction captured in the image was shaped by the chains that bound her. Natalie thought about what this meant on a day-to-day level. Harriet would have been required to dress elegantly, matching the refinement of Caroline's surroundings, while being acutely aware that her status was permanently defined by that restraint. She would have accompanied Caroline to lessons, meals, and social events, reading alongside her, answering politely, performing warmth that was never freely given. The golden shackle, masquerading as jewelry, was a cruelly clever instrument of control, a visible symbol of captivity hidden under the guise of elegance. The more Natalie examined the image, the more she realized how calculated it was. Every detail of Harriet's appearance had been managed: her hair, her clothing, her posture. She was a living display of the family's supposed benevolence, a silent testament to the power imbalance that defined life on plantations. The photograph itself, once interpreted as a rare act of friendship, was in fact a carefully staged documentation of psychological and physical domination. Natalie's mind raced as she considered the implications. For over 170 years, the photograph had been misread, celebrated for a narrative that hid the truth. Harriet's story, her fear, her endurance, her coerced performance of friendship, had been invisible to the world, erased by the veneer of civility and the careful staging of images designed to impress visitors and future generations alike. At that moment, Natalie understood that this was more than a discovery about a single photograph. It was a revelation about how history could be disguised, how oppression could be hidden behind the most innocent of smiles. The portrait of two girls sitting side by side was transformed before her eyes. From an image of innocent companionship to a haunting testament to captivity, coercion, and the invisible chains that bound Harriet's childhood. This was the beginning. If one photograph held such a secret, how many more lay hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice? Natalie couldn't stop thinking about the photograph. That single gold shackle, so cleverly disguised as jewelry, had opened a door into a world hidden in plain sight. She knew she had to dig deeper. The Montgomery collection had been meticulously catalogued, yet nobody seemed to have noticed what was right there before them. She started in the museum's archives, a labyrinth of acid-free boxes, yellowed folders, and carefully labeled drawers. Plantation records, letters, financial ledgers, and diaries stretched back decades. With gloves on, she gently leafed through each document, scanning for clues. One by one, patterns began to emerge. The term companion kept appearing, seemingly innocuous at first glance. But the more Natalie read, the more she understood the sinister code it concealed. Harriet wasn't just a friend. She was property, carefully selected for intelligence, appearance, and demeanor, trained to behave as the perfect companion for Caroline Montgomery. Every smile, every gesture, every word had been monitored. The diaries and letters spoke of etiquette lessons, reading sessions, and fine clothing. But hidden in the margins in the way expenses were itemized was the unmistakable reality: chains, restraints, and absolute control. In a ledger from 1851, Natalie found a chilling entry: purchased girl, age 13, $800, intended companion for Miss Caroline. The phrase, intended companion, was repeated elsewhere, always paired with meticulous instructions for care, dress, and behavior. A blueprint for controlling not just a child's body, but her appearance, her movements, her very personality. Natalie's research took her beyond written records. She accessed the National Archives' vast collection of oral histories from the Federal Writers' Project of the 1930s. Among thousands of interviews, she found Harriet's own voice. In a recording from 1937, an elderly Harriet Johnson recounted the years she spent as Caroline's companion. "I was purchased specially to be a friend," Harriet said, her words precise and measured. "They dressed me fine, taught me to read, though it was against the law. But don't let that fool you about kindness. I wore a gold chain on my ankle for 4 years, only removed when I was safely locked in my room at night." Natalie's stomach tightened as she listened. The elegance described in the diaries, the carefully curated image of friendship, the pride displayed in family letters, all of it had been a mask. Chains were rebranded as privilege. Restraints were turned into jewelry. Harriet's freedom had been circumscribed by both physical bonds and psychological manipulation. Every demonstration of benevolence was a performance meant to signal the family's refinement to the world while keeping the truth hidden. The archival evidence painted a grim picture. Plantation owners across Louisiana, Georgia, and Virginia had engaged in the same practice. Letters exchanged between elite families described how to maintain decorum, how to outfit young companions with elegant restraints that would not shame the household in public. Diaries revealed that girls like Harriet were kept isolated from other enslaved children, forced to perform friendship, recite lessons, and answer politely while being constantly monitored. Every privilege Fine clothing, literacy, a special seat at the table was contingent on obedience and the acceptance of captivity. Natalie began to feel the weight of the centuries pressing down. What appeared in photographs as innocence, leisure, or companionship was in reality carefully orchestrated domination. Each document, each letter, each oral history reinforced the same truth. Slavery wasn't always displayed in chains and whips. Sometimes it was elegance and smiles. Sometimes it was friendship forced, affection stolen, childhood stolen. By the end of the week, Natalie had compiled hundreds of references, tying the Montgomery photograph to a broader network of companion arrangements. She understood now that Harriet's story wasn't an isolated tragedy. It was part of a widespread, largely invisible system, one that had been sanitized for generations. And she knew that the photograph, the ledger entries, and Harriet's own words weren't just historical curiosities, they were evidence. Evidence of a cruelty that had been disguised as benevolence, elegance, and friendship. The investigation revealed a simple yet devastating truth. Slavery had 1,000 faces, and sometimes it smiled. Once Natalie realized the truth behind the Montgomery photograph, she knew their work had only just begun. One image exposed a single act of cruelty. The question was whether it was an anomaly or part of a broader pattern. The team expanded their investigation, methodically scanning the museum's digital archives, private collections, and partner institutions across the South. Emily Parker, the digital imaging specialist, developed software to detect subtle visual markers, metallic glints, unusual ankle adornments, and carefully posed interactions between white children and black children, informal portraits. Over weeks of meticulous analysis, dozens of photographs were flagged. Each one told the same story. Young black girls dressed elegantly, side by side with white plantation daughters, smiles on their faces, bodies poised gracefully, and yet, hidden in plain sight, restraints disguised as jewelry or decorative bands glimmered faintly beneath the hems of their dresses. Marcus Johnson examined the accompanying plantation records. Each companion arrangement had been recorded with astonishing precision. Wealthy families purchased enslaved girls specifically to be assigned to the daughter's care, not as laborers in the fields, not as general servants, but as companions. Their duties were clear: accompany the young white girls to lessons, social gatherings, and meals. Speak politely, maintain a composed demeanor, and appear devoted as if by choice. The psychological manipulation was chilling. Diaries and letters from plantation families described these companions in almost performative terms. She must appear cheerful, obedient, and attached to Caroline, one entry read. Another instructed, outfit her with elegant restraints so she may accompany Mary without embarrassment. The gold, silver, or finely crafted restraints were never hidden. They were designed to be admired, a statement of control masquerading as refinement. In public, the enslaved girls were displays of wealth, benevolence, and sophistication, while the truth remained entirely invisible to the casual observer. Natalie and her team cross-referenced these findings with oral histories collected during the 1930s Federal Writers Project. Formerly enslaved women recounted their own childhoods in almost identical terms. Some had been assigned to house duties, others to the companionship of children in plantation homes. Several described wearing decorative restraints, often removed only when they were locked in small rooms at night. One woman recalled the confusion of wearing fine dresses while chained, of being forced to smile and laugh, to pretend friendship while knowing she could not leave. The pattern extended across multiple states: Louisiana, Georgia, Virginia, the Carolinas. Letters between plantation families revealed a network of advice and imitation. Elite families shared recommendations for acquiring well-mannered companions and commissioning restraints that were attractive yet secure. Some even exchanged tips on posing children for portraits so the companions appeared happy, compliant, and refined. The elegance of the restraint reflects the household's culture, one Virginia diary entry noted, almost proudly. It wasn't only a Southern phenomenon, the team discovered, but it was concentrated among the wealthiest, most socially prominent families. These girls were expected to perform emotional labor as well as practical duties. They were forced into companionship, obedience, and constant surveillance. The smiles in photographs were performances, the polished clothing a disguise, the chains hidden in plain sight. Natalie felt a growing sense of gravity. Every photograph, diary entry, ledger, and oral account wove together a disturbing narrative. Slavery was not always overt brutality. Sometimes it was elegant deception, psychological domination, and emotional exploitation. The performance of friendship became a tool of control, a method to display refinement while reinforcing ownership. As the team catalogued their findings, a pattern of deliberate orchestration emerged. This was not isolated cruelty. It was systematic. Children were selected for intelligence and demeanor, dressed in fine clothes, trained to speak and behave in ways that glorified their captors' supposed benevolence, and restrained with ornate devices that transformed chains into symbols of friendship. Families used public display to cement social status while controlling lives behind closed doors. By the end of their investigation, Natalie and her team had identified over 60 documented examples of these arrangements. Each image, each ledger entry, and each oral testimony confirmed the same brutal reality. Slavery could be hidden behind smiles and elegance, making the true suffering invisible to generations of observers. It was an entire system of emotional and physical control, performed under the guise of companionship. The implications were staggering. The team realized their research didn't just reinterpret a single photograph. It reframed the way historians, curators, and the public must approach the visual history of slavery. Benevolence in portraits was no guarantee of kindness. Friendship could be a tool of ownership, and elegance could mask chains. Natalie knew the exhibition would reveal a truth long hidden. Slavery was as much about emotional domination and performance as it was about physical control. Harriet's life was defined by constraints, both visible and invisible. The gold shackle beneath her dress, the careful posture, the forced smiles, all were symbols of ownership disguised as elegance. For years, she moved through the world as Caroline's companion, her every action choreographed to project friendship, while her body and spirit remained under control. But Harriet was more than a performer. She was resilient, intelligent, and patient, enduring daily indignities that would have broken many. The outbreak of the Civil War created cracks in the oppressive structure that had defined Harriet's adolescence. The plantation, like so many across the South, became chaotic. White men marched off to fight. The household's attention splintered, and security measures grew inconsistent. For the first time in years, Harriet glimpsed freedom not as a distant dream, but as a tangible possibility. She observed openings, moments when the servants' quarters were left unattended, when her shackle could be removed under the guise of care, when the gaze of her captors faltered. Her escape was calculated. Harriet knew she could not run blindly. She had memorized the routines of the household, the timing of patrols, and the weak points in the estate's defenses. She waited for the precise moment when the guards were distracted and the plantation's attention was divided. Under the cover of darkness, she slipped away, leaving behind the ornate dress and gold restraint that had defined her public performance for so long. Northward she moved, guided by the network of free black communities and sympathetic abolitionists. Harriet's journey was perilous. Roads were fraught with danger, slave catchers, patrols, and the constant threat of betrayal. Yet her determination fueled her steps. Every mile carried her closer to autonomy, to a life unbound by chains or coerced friendship. By the time she reached a northern city, Harriet had transformed from a child in captivity to a young woman fully aware of the value of her freedom and the weight of the history she carried with her. In the North, Harriet married, built a family, and created a home where her children knew love and autonomy rather than performance and restraint. Decades later, in 1937, she spoke with the Federal Writers Project, recounting her experiences with a clarity and candor that would allow future generations to witness the cruel realities behind the seemingly innocent photographs of her youth. She described the gold bracelet she had worn, its dual role as ornament and shackle, the need to smile and speak politely, the constant awareness of being property while performing the illusion of friendship. Harriet's words revealed the psychological weight of her existence, the fear, the humiliation, the loss of agency, but also the subtle defiance and endurance that sustained her. Through Harriet's testimony, the Montgomery photograph acquired new significance. The image that once suggested a simple companionship was transformed into a document of systemic oppression. Every detail, the juxtaposition of the girls, the carefully arranged dress, the hidden restraint, became a testament to Harriet's imposed performance. The photograph was no longer just a visual artifact. It was a narrative of survival and resilience, a reminder of how power, control, and societal norms could manipulate appearances and obscure human suffering. Her survival also illuminated the broader context of companion slavery. Harriet's story was not an isolated case. It provided a window into the emotional and psychological mechanisms of control employed on plantations, showing how the captors imposed a public performance of benevolence while maintaining strict ownership. It challenged historians to reconsider every seemingly benign image, every carefully composed portrait, and every euphemistic reference to friendship or companionship in the historical record. Harriet lived long enough to ensure her story was heard. Through her words, she reclaimed agency over the narrative that had been forced upon her. She transformed from a subject of display into an active witness, reshaping history to reveal both the cruelty of her captors and her own remarkable resilience. Her escape and testimony proved that even the most oppressive systems could not entirely erase the human spirit. Today, historians, curators, and museum visitors see Harriet not only as a child subjected to forced friendship and ornate restraint, but as a survivor whose endurance reshaped our understanding of slavery. The gold shackle, once a symbol of captivity, now stands as evidence of the resilience and courage that allowed Harriet to survive. Bear witness and ensure that history could finally tell the full truth. Harriet's journey from chains to freedom, from coerced performance to empowered storyteller, serves as a powerful reminder. History is never neutral, and appearances can deceive. What was once hidden in plain sight now teaches a profound lesson about oppression, resilience, and the necessity of uncovering the truths that time may try to conceal. Today, the Montgomery photograph no longer sits quietly in the archives. It occupies a place of honor in the exhibition Hidden in Plain Sight, a space carefully curated to tell the stories that history once tried to conceal. Visitors enter the gallery, and their eyes are immediately drawn to the enlarged image of two girls on the plantation veranda. The white girl, Caroline, smiles sweetly, her ringlets perfect, her dress immaculate. The black girl, Harriet, sits beside her, hands folded delicately in her lap, her posture flawless. At first glance, it seems an innocent portrait, a charming depiction of childhood companionship. But here, the exhibition invites you to look closer. Interactive lighting and high-resolution enhancements reveal what had been hidden for over a century and a half. Harriet's ankle, once obscured by fabric and shadow, now exposes the delicate gold shackle that bound her. Visitors lean in, tracing the filigree with their eyes, realizing that the supposed friendship was a performance, one enforced through both restraint and expectation. Here, the photograph becomes more than a visual artifact. It is a lesson in hidden oppression, a record of psychological manipulation, and a testament to resilience. Alongside the image, Harriet's own words are displayed, lifted directly from the 1937 Federal Writers Project interview. She describes wearing the shackle for 4 years, removed only when she slept, and recounts how she was required to read, speak politely, and perform affection for Caroline. Her narrative breathes life into the photograph, transforming it from a stage scene into a living story of endurance. Every visitor is confronted with the stark contrast between appearance and reality, privilege and subjugation. The exhibition frames Harriet not as a passive subject, but as an individual who survived, resisted, and reclaimed her story decades later. Her courage, not Caroline's status or her family's wealth, dominates the narrative. The exhibition also situates Harriet's experience within the broader system of companionate enslavement. Through letters, diaries, and additional photographs, visitors learn that Harriet's story was not an anomaly. Wealthy plantation daughters across the South often had companions, enslaved children selected for intelligence, appearance, and obedience. Chains were disguised as jewelry, obedience was presented as affection, and captivity was sanitized into benevolence for public display. The psychological cruelty is unmistakable. Visitors see how power was hidden behind elegance, how oppression could be dressed up to look like care. The exhibition challenges anyone who thinks of history as straightforward, demanding that they look beyond the surface. Artifacts complement the photographs. The golden restraint cuff from another companion family is displayed in a protective case, its ornate exterior concealing a locking mechanism designed to prevent escape. Guests can handle replicas, seeing firsthand how beauty was weaponized to conceal control. These objects, paired with oral histories and diary entries, create an immersive experience, bridging past and present. Each element emphasizes that Harriet's survival was extraordinary, not just because she escaped, but because she bore witness, ensuring future generations would understand the depth of the cruelty she endured. Reactions from visitors are profound. Some weep silently at the realization of what Harriet endured. Others engage in hushed conversations, connecting the exhibition to ongoing discussions about power, privilege, and systemic injustice. Many leave with a deepened awareness of how oppression can hide behind smiles, fine clothes, or polite gestures. The exhibition ensures that Harriet's humanity is recognized, that her voice is amplified above the sanitized narratives of privilege. Scholars, too, have embraced the exhibition as a turning point. The methodology developed to uncover Harriet's story, enhanced digital imaging, archival cross-referencing, oral histories, has been applied nationwide. Museums and universities are now re-examining photographs that once seemed benign, searching for subtle signs of hidden captivity. Harriet's legacy has become more than personal survival. It is a catalyst for historical truth, for re-evaluating what we accept at face value. In the end, the Montgomery photograph teaches a lesson that extends far beyond its frame. It reminds us that history is often layered, that what appears charming can conceal cruelty, and that courage can emerge from the most constrained circumstances. Harriet's story endures, not as a footnote in a family album, but as a beacon of resilience and a challenge to see the truth hidden in plain sight. Visitors leave the gallery changed. They no longer look at photographs or the past the same way. Harriet's courage, her endurance, and her voice echo long after they exit. The true story, once obscured, now shines, and history itself has been transformed. Some histories are buried, hidden beneath the surface, disguised in elegance, smiles, and polished portraits. They wait patiently in attics, archives, and faded photographs, their truths obscured by time and convenience. But every once in a while someone looks closer, and the hidden reality emerges, stories of courage, of suffering, of lives constrained and yet remarkably survived. Harriet's story is one of those revelations. For over 170 years, her voice was quiet, trapped behind the delicate facade of a gold shackle and the careful staging of a plantation photograph. But now, through meticulous research, technology, and dedication, her truth is no longer silent. It reminds us that what appears innocent may conceal cruelty, and that history is often layered, complex, and uncomfortably human. As you leave this video, remember, these aren't just stories from the past. They are lessons about resilience, about seeing beneath the surface, and about recognizing the hidden struggles that shaped lives. Every image, every diary, every artifact has something to tell, if we take the time to look. If you want to uncover more hidden truths, to explore the stories that history has tried to disguise, click the related video and subscribe. Join the journey of discovery, and don't let these voices fade again. Because history only remains alive when we remember, when we see clearly, and when we honor the courage of those who endured, survived, and finally spoke.